Hi, this is Roger. This is the everything in bloom, but not on the 8th video. It's late. Tough. Other things came up. Little bit of news. The third person in the giveaway draw has got in touch and is all dealt with and sorted. So that's all 3 prizes now dealt with, put away in the cupboard and forgotten about till the next time. So again, congratulations to the 3 people, and enjoy whatever orchids that you get with your prize money. Okay, enjoy. Right, on with the business. Now I'm going to try and hold this on my extended hand because I'm not getting plants out and down. But my nice orange Vanda, whoops, he says overbalancing, is actually looking very good. I've got the shakes at arm's length, so I can see the screen wobbling. Anyway, there's 1 or 2 buds left to open. It's nearly in full bloom now. It lasts a reasonable amount of time. Eventually, well, now even it's already happened, the plant gets taller. Yeah, that's what Vandas do. And you've got a hook at some point. And if you're near the roof, like I am, eventually you get very close to the roof. And each time a spike comes out, it comes out from higher up the plant. So this Vanda's going to end up getting lower and lower and lower, so that the blooms don't touch the roof, basically. It's one of those that pushes its spikes straight up. If and when my other one decides to bloom again, over there, that's the one that has the really large purpley blue blooms on, which hasn't bloomed this year. It objected to being taken out of its basket and the bottom end of the plant cut off. It may still bloom later this year, but it's more likely to wait till next year now. It's grown an awful lot of new roots. It will bloom again. It's just you know, it had some of its reserves knocked off, basically, but it's much easier to handle. Oh, let's get the camera back on my hand. Now, I know that wasn't one in bloom, but it just happened to be there. Some may have wondered why the hell we haven't seen those blooms this year. Well, that's why. Messed with the plant. 2 of my Restrepias have got quite a few blooms on at the moment. I'm not going to get the plants out, and I can't get close enough to film these really without a tripod. But that one up in the corner there has probably got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's got about 8 blooms on the go at the moment. And then this one up in this corner's got quite a few as well. That one doesn't bloom as often, but there are some there. So 2 out of the Restrepias are in bloom at the moment. They're the big 2. They're almost constantly in bloom. Excuse me. Oh, mouthful of coffee. Getting croaks today. That's better. That works wonders, that stuff. Right, come over here. My only Tolumnia in bloom. Lovely deep red one, this, with good... Well, actually, the yellow bands are a little pale. If they were deeper, that would be absolutely stunning. But blooms are just starting to fade now. It's been open quite a long time. And there's no other spikes at the moment. So when this one's gone, we won't have any more Tolumnias for a while. But with the new plants I've got in, you know, there's going to be some spikes down the line. I don't think we'll have to wait till next year. And then next to that, we've got this Miltonia forgotten. I'll be doing pop-ups. I don't even need to think about it. I'll do pop-ups. This one has been in bloom a long time, and it seems to be a bit of a Miltonia trait when you're looking at species anyway. This is in effect a primary cross, naturally occurring cross. And you tend to get the first buds open near the first ones up the spike, and they've actually gone, while others are still not open yet. So obviously we're on the last ones now, the last 3 on this spike, and the other spike's up the other end, hiding under these leaves. These are going to go first, I think. I mean, there's 2 of those well on their way out, and the other 2 won't be far behind. But it's got 2 leads, effectively. It's pushing off in both directions. When people worry about how to feed a plant in its various stages, you've got this one that's got spikes with open blooms on, and it's got a new growth pushing on quite well out the back there, and it's growing roots. It's doing everything all at once, so it needs food. Back again, by popular request. This is one of the few plants where I would, if it was possible to have smelly vision, I'd do it just for this plant. The fragrance on this Cattleya is absolutely phenomenal. It really is. Especially if I get a little burst of light through the shade netting. You know, that really kicks it off. It fills the grow room. Absolutely stunning. And quite honestly, as Cattleya blooms go, I like this one because it's big and blousy, but not big blousy colours. Every colour on there is subtle and delicate, right from the little bit of hint of yellow in the centre, yeah, to the frill round the edge, the deep purple on the end of the lip, and the subtle fading on the petals and the sepals. It's just a really well balanced bloom with lovely colours and a gorgeous fragrance. And it's pretty vigorous as a plant. You can easily mature a growth in far less than a year and come back into bloom again without having to wait a year. It hasn't got a season, it blooms when it's good and ready. So that's that one. That's my only Cattleya out at the moment. I've got buds coming all over the place, but that's the only one out. And then we'll come round to this crowd round here. This is the regnellii that's now down to 2 spikes. There's only 2 left. And both of those spikes are on their last 2 blooms. So this isn't going to be with us many more days, quite honestly. I'm borderline just taking the spikes off as it is now, and you know, just get it back into growth mode, ready for next year. So as this was in bloom when I got it, I don't know how long it will take to come back into bloom. It may be annually seasonal, in which case, you know, we'll see the blooms whatever. August, September time next year. September probably. We shall see. And then the other 2 up here. This one is on its last 2 spikes and its very last blooms on the top of those spikes. So this is not going to be with us much longer, but it's lasted well. It was bought in bloom. So, you know, but some of the buds did actually open after I bought it. So that normally provides you with information about how long the blooms are actually going to last next time, when all the blooms will be yours, if you see what I mean, rather than some bought-in buds. And then the other one up here, the deep purple one, that's got 2 blooms left now. Oh no, it's got 1 more over here and 1 about to fall on the floor. But that's gone. That's lost its purpleness. So these are the last 2, and effectively this is the last one in good condition before this one actually goes over. So all 3 of these giants up here are soon going to be out of bloom, and then we can get them growing again. Some of those, or that beeping if you can hear it, is my loaf is ready. That novelty still has not worn off. It's still absolutely magnificent to have the smell of freshly baking bread in the house. It's absolutely brilliant. And because I bake quite a small loaf, relatively I suppose, I'm doing it quite often. Obviously homemade bread doesn't keep like the store-bought stuff, because it hasn't got all the muck in it to make it last ages. It's just it's not much more than flour and water, is it, bread? Anyway, the novelty still hasn't worn off. That's still brilliant, loving it. And then up here, the only thing out up here is my Dendrobium Koniko, that's having a little bit of a flush after a little bit of a rest, having spent virtually all of last year and a hell of a lot of this year in bloom. So it's basically gathering up its resources to start blooming on some new canes, or newer canes, ones that haven't bloomed before, like these that I've grown on. They're starting to drop their leaves now. And then they'll be the next ones to bloom. These ones down here are canes that were already on it, and they've been blooming on and off since I got the plant, and they're still doing it, you know. So well worth it, that plant. That didn't cost me a lot. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and it's been a star performer. Well, still is, effectively. Right, and coming down here, Oh, my arm's starting to ache. I'm just going to stretch my arm a minute. It gets quite stiff if you've got the weight of the camera and your arm's all bent. Now I've got to get my hand back in without knocking my thumb. Ah, right, back up and running. And then we've got this one that I've only recently got. This was, when I went on my visit to Lynn and Alan's. So this is one of the plants from the guy who's relatively recently died. And we've managed to identify this as William Kirsch, and it's the variety Country Garden, as sold by Burnham's. So I'll trust that the name is correct. As I said, it had no tag on when I got it, but I'm happy that that's a match. I look at it like this way: if ever that gets under somebody's nose that's going to have to make some sort of judgment, are they really going to know one way or the other? So that's what it's called, that's what it's staying as. I'm happy with that. And this is my species Miltoniopsis, and this spike is, the blooms on this spike are not as big as the previous blooms. The first one's not far off, but this top one is a little smaller. Nonetheless, we do have a good new growth coming on the plant itself, because I'm supposed to be growing this on to the point where it's strong enough to produce a seed pod, and then the seed pod's going off to help procreate, on the grounds that this one's getting pretty scarce in the wild, and the ones that are in cultivation are becoming weaker, by keep crossing back to the same ones all the time. And this was deemed a strong version, so reintroduced some strong genes back into the pool. But it's not capable of producing a seed pod yet. Several attempts failed, so we've got to wait for that to build up a bit of strength. And then up the back here we've got my Thailand Black, the phalaenopsis type. These blooms are going slowly but surely, but we've still got a few that have got the basis of their colour. As they start to go, they start looking as though something's been eating them. That just seems to be how they go, because there isn't anything eating them. Anyway, there's another bud to come yet, so we've got one more new bloom to come out. Colour is at its depth, at its deepest, when the blooms have only been opened a day or two, and the camera shows that lighter than it really is. It's a darker colour than that. And then next to that is the I'm going to call it a hitchhiker, basically, because the Nelly that I bought was red velvet, and in the pot was a different type of Nelly. So although I only bought one and I got the one I wanted, I got another one as well. So when that comes out of the pot soon, they'll obviously get potted up separately, and probably at that point they'll get muddled up and we'll have to wait for them to bloom again. But yeah, there were two in the pot, and they were obviously two different types of Nelly, so I've got two for the price of one, effectively, which is good stuff. And then this is my bought-in Miltoniopsis. These blooms are going now. They're losing their glory, I think is the easy way to say, because they just start to go wishy-washy and lose their colour. Don't lose their pattern, but they're starting to lose their colour. So the spike will be gone soon, and then we'll have to get it out of that media, get it potted up, and hopefully grow it on. So that's that one. And then nearly last but least is my phalaenopsis type Dendrobium. I've had this one for donkey's years, actually, and I can't see me ever getting rid of that. These blooms on here, I mean, if you look at the blooms around here, there's quite a few in shot there. Which is the one that stands out? It's got like a glow to it. The colour radiates. It's quite special the way this, it almost looks as though it's got light shining on it, so it's posing. But that is just how it is. You've got the very delicate tessellations showing through. They're a good shape, they're a good size. I mean, that's considerably larger than the Thailand Black over here, as far as the bloom size is concerned. So yeah, I like this one a lot. I've actually got two of these because the plant was split. The other one's coming on. In fact, the other one's got a better root system than this one, but this is the one that decided to bloom on the latest growth, basically. Right, so that's all that there is, except there's a Nelly in bloom, but I'm going to include it because I'm getting fed up with waiting. If you remember a while back, I got some new plants in from Speciotic Plants on eBay, and an extra plant was included. And the tag, I'll get the tag, I've still got it, I kept it deliberately. It didn't tell me what the plant was. It was just called Challenge Plant, Good Luck. Now, I don't know whether that was taking the mickey on the grounds that I had a fair idea what it was probably going to turn out to be, and the chances of me growing it well are possibly not as good as some other types of orchids. Mouthful of coffee. But this is it down here, and it's just opening. And it's opened enough that we can get a look inside. There we go. Now I think that was worth waiting for. And now you good folks can all run away, find out what it is and tell me, because I'm not going to look it up. That's your job. You can do that for me. I know where I can find out what it is by just going to the site and looking through the stuff they've got for sale, now that I can see the inside of the bloom. But I would say it's either a hybrid or a cousin of a zygopetalum, along those lines. So, well, it opened finally. That's taken an awful long time to get to the point where that bud started to open, but the patterning is absolutely gorgeous. I hope that bloom is going to open up properly and not stay like that. Considerably smaller than a lot of zygo blooms, but nonetheless, coloration is superb, and it may or may not be fragrant. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, finally opened. He says, nearly dropping it on the floor. Right, so that was the one I was waiting for, really. So there we go. Other things that are going on. One of the orchid societies in the States who got in touch with me about doing a Zoom talk, that the interactions between us are now getting to the point where, you know, we're getting somewhere, sort of thing. I've done a little test video to send off. There's a function on YouTube where you can load your video onto YouTube, but you don't list it. So it's classed as unlisted. The only people that can see it are people that you send the shareable link to in an email. So the idea will be, I've done a test video. It's not complicated, basically. I will then email that link to the person who's going to host the Zoom meeting, because we'll have a little test meeting to make sure this all works. So they can then fire that link off and get the video started and put it on pause, sort of thing. And then a few of us will join the Zoom meeting at that point, and then the host can do a share screen onto the video and play it, and those of us that are in the meeting should be able to watch the video. That will be the principle of the talk. It'll be a pre-recorded video, followed by like a live session where I can answer questions and that sort of stuff. So we're getting going with this now. It seems to be okay. There's another American Orchid Society want to do the same sort of thing, and I want to do the same sort of thing for the two orchid societies I actually belong to. Now, as I'm allowed to, because it's mine, I might use the same video for all four. Yeah? It seems daft making four totally different ones for the same purpose, really. So I'll have to make it a good one, won't I? Anyway, once it has been used privately for the orchid societies, because they're paying for the service, I will have a think about whether I should load it onto YouTube publicly or not. Possibly not in that case, because certainly in two cases, you know, they'd be paying for the privilege. So really they've paid for a private viewing, I would say. Although, I don't know, I'll think about that. To be discussed. Anyway, I'm going to end on that, because at the moment, out of my blooms that are open, that is what I would call the spectacle. So every time that opens, I just, you know, it's bordering on Laelia anceps in the way it just keeps catching my eye. So Good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.